What happens when America's favorite country star sits down for what should be a simple morning chat, but instead walks into a carefully planned attack? It only took 31 seconds for Jenna Bush Hager to destroy her own reputation with one shocking question that left everyone in the studio speechless. Last night's episode of Today with Jenna and Friends became the most talked about morning show disaster in television history. What you're about to hear is the exclusive inside story of how a beloved country music icon was blindsided, humiliated, and ultimately thrown off set by a host who clearly had a personal agenda. Blake Shelton walked into that New York studio thinking he was going to talk about his new album, his tour dates, and maybe share some laughs with the morning show panel. Instead, he found himself under attack from the very first question. The show started like any other morning. The cameras rolled, the audience applauded, and Jenna Bush Hager put on her biggest fake smile as she introduced her guest panel. Sitting alongside her were comedian Hoda Kotb, lifestyle expert Carson Daly, and entertainment reporter Savannah Guthrie. The four hosts seemed relaxed and friendly as they welcomed Blake onto the famous orange couch. Blake looked great that morning. He was wearing his classic button-down shirt and jeans, his signature cowboy hat sitting perfectly on his head. He smiled and waved at the audience, clearly in a good mood and ready to promote his latest projects. Good morning, everybody. We have the one and only Blake Shelton with us today, Jenna announced with what seemed like genuine enthusiasm. Blake, thank you so much for being here with us this morning. Thanks for having me. It's always great to be here, Blake replied with his usual charm. He settled back into the couch cushions, completely unaware of what was about to happen. The other panel members chimed in with their own welcomes. Carson Daly leaned forward with a big smile. Blake, man, it's been too long. How are you doing? I'm doing fantastic, Carson. Life is good, the music is good, everything is just great right now, Blake answered, his Oklahoma drawl filling the studio with warmth. Savannah Guthrie jumped in next. We're so excited to hear about the new album. The fans are going crazy for it already. Well, I hope so. We put a lot of heart and soul into these songs. I think people are really going to connect with them, Blake said, his eyes lighting up as he talked about his music. Even Hoda seemed genuinely happy to see him. Blake, you always bring such great energy to this show. We love having you here. For those first few moments, everything seemed perfectly normal. The conversation flowed naturally. Blake was relaxed and talkative, and the audience was eating it up. But then something shifted in Jenna's demeanor. Her smile became tighter, more forced. She straightened up in her chair and cleared her throat. Blake, before we get into the music, I have to ask you about something that's been bothering a lot of our viewers, she said, her voice taking on a more serious tone. Blake's eyebrows went up slightly. He wasn't expecting such a sudden change in direction, but he remained calm. Sure, Jenna, what's on your mind? The other panel members seemed to sense the shift too. Carson's smile faded a bit, and Savannah looked confused. Hoda glanced over at Jenna with a questioning expression, clearly not knowing what was coming next. Jenna leaned forward, her eyes narrowing slightly as she looked directly at Blake. The studio fell silent, except for the quiet hum of the cameras. Even the audience seemed to hold their breath. Blake, there have been some pretty serious allegations floating around about your behavior on The Voice over the years. Some people are saying you created a hostile work environment for female contestants and staff members. What do you have to say about that? The question hit Blake like a punch to the gut. His face went from relaxed and friendly to shocked and confused in an instant. He blinked several times, clearly trying to process what he had just heard. I'm sorry, what? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The other panel members looked just as stunned as Blake. Carson's mouth fell open slightly. Savannah's eyes went wide, and Hoda actually gasped audibly. None of them had been expecting this line of questioning, and it was obvious they were all caught completely off guard. Jenna pressed on, her voice getting stronger and more accusatory. You heard me, Blake. Multiple sources have come forward claiming that you made inappropriate comments to female contestants, that you showed favoritism based on looks rather than talent, and that you generally made women uncomfortable on set. These are serious accusations. Blake's shock was quickly turning to anger. His jaw clenched, and his hands gripped the arms of the couch. Jenna, I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. Those accusations are completely false. And frankly, I'm offended that you would ambush me with something like this. Ambush you? Jenna shot back, her voice rising. Blake, these are legitimate questions that deserve answers. Our viewers have a right to know the truth about the people they're supporting. Carson Daly tried to step in and defuse the situation. Hey, maybe we should take a step back here. This seems like something that should be discussed privately, not on live television. But Jenna wasn't backing down. She turned to Carson with fire in her eyes. Carson, this is exactly the kind of attitude that allows these problems to continue. We can't just sweep serious allegations under the rug because someone is uncomfortable. Savannah Guthrie looked like she wanted to disappear into her chair. Jenna, maybe we should stick to talking about Blake's music. That's what our audience tuned in to hear about. The audience deserves the truth, Savannah. They deserve to know who they're really supporting, Jenna replied, her voice getting more heated by the second. Blake was getting more frustrated by the minute. His face was turning red, and his voice was getting louder. Jenna, I don't know who told you these lies, but that's exactly what they are, lies. I have never, and I mean never, treated anyone inappropriately on The Voice or anywhere else. So you're saying all these women are lying? Jenna challenged, leaning forward aggressively. You're saying they're all making this up? I'm saying I have no idea what women you're even talking about, Blake exploded, his voice echoing through the studio. You're throwing around vague accusations without giving me any specifics. This is character assassination, plain and simple. Hoda finally found her voice and tried to calm things down. Okay, everyone, let's just take a deep breath here. This is getting way too heated, but it was too late. The damage was already done, and both Blake and Jenna were too fired up to back down now. Jenna ignored Hoda's plea for calm and doubled down on her attack. Her voice was sharp and cutting as she stared Blake down across the coffee table. Blake, denying these allegations isn't going to make them go away. The entertainment industry has a long history of powerful men silencing women who try to speak out. Blake's eyes flashed with anger. He sat forward on the couch, pointing directly at Jenna. Now hold on just a minute. You're trying to paint me as some kind of predator based on what? Rumors? Gossip? I've worked with hundreds of talented women over the years, and every single one of them would tell you that I treated them with nothing but respect. Would they, though? Jenna shot back with a smirk. Or would they be too afraid to speak out against someone with your level of influence in the industry? The audience was dead silent now. You could hear a pin drop in that studio. Carson Daly looked like he was going to be sick. His face had gone completely pale, and he kept glancing toward the cameras as if he couldn't believe this was happening on live television. Savannah Guthrie tried again to redirect the conversation. Jenna, I really think we should move on to talking about Blake's tour. I know our viewers would love to hear about the upcoming dates. But Jenna was relentless. She turned on Savannah with venom in her voice. Savannah, this is exactly the problem. Everyone wants to just move on and ignore these issues instead of addressing them head on. We have a responsibility as journalists to ask the hard questions. Journalists? Blake laughed bitterly. Is that what you call this? Ambushing someone with false accusations on live TV? That's not journalism, Jenna. That's a hit job. Hoda was visibly uncomfortable now. She kept shifting in her seat and looking toward the production crew off camera. Blake, Jenna, can we please just take this down a notch? Our viewers tune in to start their day with something positive, not to watch people attack each other. Hoda, I'm not attacking anyone, Jenna replied coldly. I'm simply asking Blake to address some very serious concerns that have been brought to my attention. If he has nothing to hide, then he should be able to answer these questions honestly. Blake stood up from the couch, his tall frame towering over the seated panel. His face was red with anger, and his hands were clenched into fists at his sides. Jenna, I don't know what your agenda is here, but this is completely unprofessional. You invited me on this show to talk about my music, not to participate in some kind of witch hunt. My agenda is the truth, Blake, Jenna replied, also standing up now. And the truth is that multiple women have come forward with very specific stories about your behavior on The Voice set. What women? Blake demanded, his voice booming through the studio. Give me names. Give me specifics. You keep saying multiple women, but you won't tell me who or what they're claiming I did. Carson Daly finally found his voice again, though it was shaky. Guys, this is really getting out of hand. Maybe we should take a commercial break and sort this out off camera. Jenna whirled around to face Carson. Carson, are you seriously suggesting we cover this up? Are you part of the problem too? Carson's jaw dropped. Jenna, what are you talking about? I'm trying to be professional here. This isn't how we handle serious allegations on morning television. Oh, so now you're telling me how to do my job? Jenna's voice was getting shrill now. I've been in television longer than you have, Carson. I know what I'm doing. Savannah looked like she was about to cry. Her voice was barely audible as she spoke. Jenna, please, this isn't you. I don't know what's gotten into you today, but this isn't the way to handle this situation. What's gotten into me is that I'm tired of watching powerful men get away with treating women like garbage, Jenna snapped. I'm tired of everyone looking the other way and pretending these problems don't exist. Blake was pacing now, his cowboy boots clicking against the studio floor. Jenna, you want to talk about treating people like garbage? Look what you're doing to me right now. You're destroying my reputation based on nothing but rumors and innuendo. Your reputation? Jenna laughed harshly. Blake, if these allegations are true, then your reputation deserves to be destroyed. The audience was starting to murmur now. People were clearly uncomfortable with what they were witnessing. Some were looking toward the exits. Others were pulling out their phones to record what was happening. Hoda stood up and moved toward Blake, placing a gentle hand on his arm. Blake, why don't you sit back down? Let's all just take a breath and try to work through this calmly. Blake looked down at Hoda with gratitude in his eyes. Hoda, I appreciate that, but I'm not going to sit here and let someone slander me on national television. These accusations are false, period. And the fact that Jenna won't even tell me who's making them or what specifically they're claiming tells me everything I need to know about how credible they are. Jenna stepped closer to Blake, her face twisted with anger. You want specifics, Blake? Fine. How about the contestant who says you told her she'd have a better chance of winning if she wore tighter clothing? Or the female producer who claims you made inappropriate comments about her appearance in front of the entire crew? Blake's eyes widened in disbelief. That never happened, Jenna. None of that ever happened. You're either making this up completely, or someone is feeding you lies. So now I'm a liar? Jenna's voice was reaching a dangerous pitch. Is that what you're saying, Blake? That I would come on national television and lie about something this serious? Carson stood up now too, his voice urgent. Okay, that's enough. We need to cut to commercial right now. This has gone way too far. But the cameras kept rolling. The production crew seemed frozen, unsure of what to do. This was live television, and they were witnessing something unprecedented. Blake turned away from Jenna and addressed the cameras directly. To everyone watching at home, I want you to know that these accusations are completely false. I have never treated any woman inappropriately, and I'm deeply hurt that someone would try to destroy my character like this without any proof whatsoever. Jenna moved around the coffee table to get between Blake and the cameras. Blake, you can't just dismiss these women's experiences like that. They deserve to be heard, and they deserve justice. What women, Jenna? Blake shouted, his composure finally cracking completely. You keep talking about these women, but you won't name them. You won't give me details. You're asking me to defend myself against ghosts and shadows? Savannah was crying now, tears streaming down her face. Please stop. Both of you, just please stop. This is horrible. Hoda put her arm around Savannah, glaring at Jenna with disappointment. Jenna, look what you've done. Look how you've upset everyone. This isn't journalism. This is cruelty. But Jenna was beyond reason now. Her eyes were wild, and spittle was forming at the corners of her mouth as she screamed at Blake. You think you can just charm your way out of this like you do everything else? Well, not this time, Blake. The truth is coming out whether you like it or not. Blake took a step back from Jenna, his face a mixture of disgust and disbelief. Jenna, I don't know what has gotten into you, but you've lost your mind. This is the most unprofessional thing I've ever witnessed in my entire career. The audience was getting restless now. People were standing up, some heading for the exits, others holding up phones to record the meltdown. The energy in the studio had shifted from uncomfortable to dangerous. Carson Daly was frantically gesturing to someone off camera, probably trying to get a producer to cut the feed. We need to end this segment right now. This is completely out of control. But Jenna wasn't done. She pointed an accusing finger at Blake, her voice shaking with rage. You know what, Blake? The fact that you're getting so angry about this just proves that you have something to hide. Innocent people don't react this way when they're questioned. Innocent people don't expect to be ambushed with false accusations on morning television. Blake shot back, his voice steady despite his obvious anger. I came here in good faith to talk about my music, and you turned it into a character assassination. Hoda stepped between them, her voice pleading. Jenna, please. This has to stop. You're destroying everything we built on this show. Our viewers don't want to see this. Jenna whirled on Hoda with fury in her eyes. Hoda, are you taking his side? Are you really going to protect him instead of standing up for the women who've been hurt? What women, Jenna? Hoda asked, her voice breaking. You keep talking about these women, but nobody knows who they are or what they're claiming. This isn't how we handle serious allegations. Savannah had stopped crying and was now staring at Jenna with a mixture of horror and disappointment. Jenna, I've worked with you for years. This isn't who you are. Something is very wrong here. Nothing is wrong with me, Jenna screamed, her voice echoing through the studio. What's wrong is that everyone wants to protect their precious celebrity friends instead of listening to victims. Blake had heard enough. He started removing his microphone, his movements deliberate and calm despite the chaos around him. You know what, Jenna? I don't have to stand here and listen to this garbage. I've never been treated so disrespectfully in my entire life. Oh, so now you're the victim? Jenna laughed maniacally. That's rich, Blake. That's exactly what powerful men do when they're called out. They play the victim card. Carson was on his feet now, moving toward Blake. Blake, I am so sorry about this. This is not how we do business here. This is not who we are as a show. Blake looked at Carson with genuine appreciation. Carson, I know this isn't your fault, but I'm not going to stand here and be attacked like this. I have too much respect for myself and for my fans. Suddenly, Jenna's voice cut through everything else like a knife. Security! I need security in here right now! Everyone in the studio froze. The audience fell silent. Even the cameramen stopped moving. Hoda, Carson, and Savannah stared at Jenna in complete shock. Jenna, what are you doing? Savannah whispered, her voice barely audible. I'm protecting everyone in this studio from someone who clearly has anger management issues, Jenna announced loudly, her voice carrying to every corner of the room. Blake's face went white. Are you serious right now? You attack me with false accusations, and when I defend myself, you call security on me? 2 security guards appeared from the wings, looking confused and uncomfortable. They clearly didn't want to be part of whatever was happening. Ma'am, what seems to be the problem? One of the guards asked hesitantly. Jenna pointed dramatically at Blake. This man is being threatening and disruptive. I need him removed from the set immediately for everyone's safety. The security guard looked at Blake, then back at Jenna, clearly not understanding the situation. Sir, have you made any threats or acted aggressively toward anyone? Blake held up his hands, his voice calm but firm. Officer, I have done nothing but defend myself against false accusations. I haven't threatened anyone or acted aggressively in any way. Carson stepped forward, his face red with embarrassment and anger. This is completely ridiculous. Blake has been nothing but professional. He's the victim here, not the aggressor. Hoda was crying now, her voice choked with emotion. Jenna, how could you do this? Blake is our friend. He's been on this show dozens of times. This is insane. But Jenna was beyond reason. She crossed her arms and stared at the security guards expectantly. I've asked you to remove him from the set. That's my final decision as the host of this show. The lead security guard looked deeply uncomfortable. He glanced around at the other panel members, all of whom were shaking their heads and looking at him with pleading eyes. Ma'am, I'm not sure this is the right course of action. Perhaps we could all just take a break and sort this out off camera, the guard suggested diplomatically. I don't want to take a break, Jenna snapped. I want him gone, now. Blake looked around the studio one final time, taking in the shocked faces of the audience, the embarrassed expressions of the other hosts, and the chaos that Jenna had created. He straightened his cowboy hat and spoke directly to the cameras. To my fans watching at home, I want you to know that I love and respect each and every one of you. I would never do anything to hurt or disrespect anyone, especially the women who support my music. What happened here today was an ambush, plain and simple. I hope you'll continue to support my music and know that the Blake Shelton you've always known and loved hasn't changed. With that, he turned and walked toward the exit with his head held high. The security guards followed behind him, looking embarrassed to be part of the situation. As Blake reached the edge of the set, he turned back one final time and looked directly at Jenna. I hope you get the help you need, Jenna, because what happened here today isn't normal. The studio fell completely silent as Blake Shelton, one of country music's biggest stars, was escorted off the Today Show set. The cameras continued rolling, capturing every moment of the most shocking morning television meltdown in history. Jenna stood in the center of the chaos she had created, breathing heavily, her hair disheveled, her makeup smeared. The other hosts stared at her in disbelief and disgust. Carson Daly was the first to speak, his voice quiet but firm. Jenna, what you did here today was wrong, completely wrong. Savannah nodded in agreement, wiping tears from her eyes. That was cruel and unprofessional. Blake didn't deserve any of that. Hoda just shook her head sadly, looking at Jenna like she was seeing her for the first time. I don't even know who you are anymore. But Jenna wasn't backing down. Even as her world crumbled around her, she stood defiant. History will vindicate me. You'll all see that I was right to ask these questions. The cameras finally stopped rolling, but the damage was done. In the span of less than 30 minutes, Jenna Bush Hager had destroyed her own career, humiliated a beloved entertainer, and created a morning television scandal that would be talked about for years to come. Blake Shelton walked out of that studio with his dignity intact and his reputation stronger than ever. He had shown grace under pressure and had refused to be bullied by someone clearly having a breakdown on live television. As for Jenna, she stood alone in the wreckage of what had once been her career, having learned too late that sometimes the person you think is your enemy turns out to be the hero of the story.